I just wanted to say how delighted I am to be standing here tonight launching the 2024 Real World Radio Academy 30 Under 30. So this is the Radio Academy initiative which celebrates the brightest and best young industry trailblazers. And we're going to hear from an amazing 30 Under 30 panel very, very shortly. They're going to be telling you a bit more about why you should apply for this or nominate someone brilliant and what it has meant for them. But before that, I just want to say a really big thank you on behalf of all the Radio Academy trustees for coming to you lot, for coming along today, tonight, and for supporting your radio and audio charity. It means a lot, and I really want you to get as much out of us as you possibly can. We are here for you. I really hope you have a fab night and make lots of new connections. And before we hear from our panel, I'd just like you to welcome from Real World, sponsors of 30 Under 30, to talk about why this is such an important scheme, Mr. Adam Eupman!
What an intro. Thank you very much, Helen. Lovely to be here. Really great event today, and thank you all for coming. It's been great to meet so many people. Just a little bit about Real World very briefly. We work with radio stations, audio companies and brands around the world to help them with their sonic imaging, their branding, their imaging, their jingles, and everything else basically around their audio identity. So this is the 11th year that Real World has supported the Radio Academy's 30 Under 30 programme. And it's a huge privilege to continue to recognise the future talent of the UK radio and wider audio sector. I mean, the audio industry has gone through an immense amount of change over the last few years. And what has emerged is a really strong, healthy sector that creates so many opportunities for creatives like yourselves to carve out a long-term career in the space. So both Real World and the Radio Academy believe very, very passionately that radio, podcasting, and all other forms of audio content have a really, really bright future. So it's even more important that we support, nurture, and develop the talented people that will help sustain the industry for the long term. So that's why the Real World Radio Academy 30 Under 30 remains so important. Since launching in 2011, it's recognised hundreds of promising individuals who've gone on to have continued success in their careers, both on and off air. So, on behalf of Real World, I'd like to say thank you very much to the Radio Academy and everyone involved in 30 Under 30. We are really, really excited to see who emerges from the 2024 list. And now I think it's over to Emma.
Hello. Thank you, Adam. Just to say, this chat will be informal. We'll have loads of questions. Please don't be shy. Speak to us. We've all been on 30 Under 30 at some point in different years, and we're basically here to encourage you to apply and tell you what's so good about it. So I don't believe in icebreakers. We're going to get straight into it. So I'm going to ask first, where did you start? How did you get your foot in the door? And what are you doing now? You've got a mic, Callum. You go first.
There we go. I knew that was the wrong thing to be doing, sat here holding the mic. Sorry, what was the question? Literally just started. It's been a long day.
How did you get your foot in the door, and what do you do now?
So I came into radio in a unique way, really, in the fact that I did an apprenticeship. I think it was the first of its kind, and I don't think there's been one since. So I don't know what that says about the course. But yeah, since then I've essentially been the kiss of death at every station that I've been to. So I started Smooth, a few months later Global bought it, station moved to London. Then when that happened, I moved on to Real Access within the same group. That rebranded. Then I went from Real Access, I then left and went to Bauer, was freelancing at Key 103, working on a late night show. That show got canned. And then went from that to a daytime producer on Key 103. Key 103 got killed, as did my radio career. And then 6 months later, the boss that made me redundant there then came to me and says, I'm leaving, going to set up a production company, do you want in? So, and that's where I've been. So this is actually the longest thing I've ever done.
So you haven't killed this one yet?
Not yet. I'm basically unemployable, so that's why I've got to do it myself.
Olivia?
Hi. Yes, my name's Olivia, and my foot in the door journey was hard. So if anyone is feeling that right now, I can definitely relate. I did student radio when I was at uni in Edinburgh, and then at that point decided that was what I wanted to do with my life. So just went to events like this in Scotland and emailed lots of people and begged for unpaid work and paid work and everything, and started doing some running for BBC Radio Scotland during the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh. Was my first paid radio thing. But I was just bringing guests from one place to another. I wasn't doing anything actually radio related. And then moved back to Manchester, which is where I'm from, and I was doing community radio, hospital radio, which was hilarious, and any radio I could find, until I eventually found Reform Radio, which is where I now work and have worked for almost 5 years. So when I joined, they're a radio station themselves, so I was on their studio team, and as I joined, they started their independent production company side. So it was very much right place, right time, and I was the first employee of that production company part, and that's where I've been ever since.
Xanthi?
Hello. I started out in radio when I was 14, by accident. You know when you're in school and they're like, you've got to pick 2 weeks work experience. All my friends wanted to go and work in a shoe shop or retail and get discount or whatever. And I was like, I'm not doing that because I'm going to have to get a job in retail when I'm 16 anyway, so forget that. And my form tutor just said to me, goes, oh, why don't you try radio? There's a local community station not far. And I was like, yeah, fine, let's do that. And I did 2 weeks there and I just loved it. It was just weird and they got us doing everything. From archiving, literally I was cleaning as well at one point, which is fine. I enjoyed it, got the full experience. And then I went on to do broadcast journalism at uni, and I started freelancing at BBC Radio Leeds for sport. And I don't know anything about sport. So it wasn't a really great start in that I was like, I'm not the right person for this, but sometimes you get an opportunity and you just have to make the best of it and do your best. And that's what I did. And then I applied for a reporter job elsewhere, didn't get it, because I've never done any reporting before, but still managed to get an interview, and I was like, well, what am I going to say? Because I've never actually reported in my life at this point, professionally. Didn't get the job in the end, which was fine. I was quite glad, because I think I would have been rubbish. And then they just said, right, we really like you though, do you want to come back for some freelance work for 2 weeks? And I was like, absolutely. And then that turned into a year and a half, and that was at BBC Radio Sheffield, which is, because I'm from Sheffield. So yeah, I was there for a bit, and then one day I came into work, got an email from a production company. Some of my colleagues, former colleagues, are here today, and the MD was like, we need an assistant producer for Radio 1 and Radio 2, do you want to do it? And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. And yeah, I've just up until recently, I've just taken whatever's come my way in the best way, but I think probably the past year I've moved a little bit away from production, because sometimes I think you can let stuff come to you, and that's fine to do that, but also you can take control and think, actually, I'm going to specialise and I'm going to go do something that I'm a bit more passionate about. So now I just do, I just honestly just do all sorts, reporting, presenting, writing. I think that's it at the moment. But in terms of radio, that's what I do. Yeah, I love it. It's great.
All of those examples were really good because it shows how broad audio is. And 30 under 30 is actually really broad. So whatever your highlight is, whatever you've done that's been important to you, that's what you put in the application. What you're passionate about, what's been a big moment in your career. So actually, can we all think about highlights from your career so far? Maybe something early on, something that you did at that time and you thought, oh my God, I've done that. Not the biggest, shiniest name, but just something you did that made you proud. I've started speaking, so I will go first, which was, I did 2 weeks of unpaid work experience for a production company. I won't say will, I feel like they'll feel like they probably pay now. They didn't pay at the time. And on the last day, I got to go into Radio 1, and I was shadowing Annie Mac's Friday night show, and they wanted a name for a feature. And I basically was in the room, like, silent, like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. And I was so scared. And then actually I was like, I might never be in this room again. I need to say something. And I came up with the name for the feature, and it ran for the next 3 years on that Friday night show. And I was like, that's my baby. That's mine. And I've done bigger things that are probably more important to other people. But to me, I was like, I've actually left a little mark there. And moments like that can be what makes you stand out in 30 Under 30, because it's about what you've done, what you've brought, what's important to you. It doesn't have to be Annie Mac, obviously. It can be student radio, local radio, hospital radio, wherever is important to you. Anyone got an example ready?
I can go.
Yeah.
So I have worked on loads of like independent podcasts in the 5 years I've been at Reform, but the one that I think I'm most proud of is definitely not the biggest. I haven't really worked on any huge ones, to be honest. But it's for we still make it. We're making series 5 at the moment. And it's for a hospice in North Derbyshire called Ashgate Hospice. And the podcast is called The Life and Death Podcast. And it's about people who are with the hospice receiving end-of-life care. And we started making it in 2020. And it's because it's in North Derbyshire, I was going over to North Derbyshire to record these patients talking about their experiences of life and death and how they feel having a terminal diagnosis. And I was in full PPE because it was post-March 2020. And I was absolutely terrified of making anyone sicker. And it was like actually quite stressful and hard, but the most rewarding by far thing I've ever made. And it doesn't get millions of listens, but the listens it does get are from people who really need that podcast. And I like check all the reviews when anyone leaves one, and some of them are so gorgeous, and that is what I think I'm most proud of, just making that series.
Two things. I'll give you two of my favourites. Well, recently I decided, I've been wanting to write for ages. Like, obviously I do radio, but I've always wanted to write. My nan is a writer, and I was like, I really want to do that. So I just started doing it, and I wrote for a local magazine in Sheffield, online and print. It's amazing. We've still got a print magazine left in Sheffield. And I know it doesn't seem like that exciting. I didn't get paid for it either, but I was just really proud of myself because I was like, I've actually done it. And it's really scary because it's not something I've done before. Obviously I write for radio, but it's very different for like different platforms, obviously. And the other big thing is quitting my last 2 jobs. But it sounds really bad. It's not a bad thing, but it just means in this industry you'll change doing what you do probably quite often. I think a lot of us here have. And it was really scary because I remember like feeling like I wasn't really happy with what I was doing. Not that there was anything wrong with my job at all, I loved it, but I was just ready for something different. I remember driving home from Manchester one night and I was like, what would I do if I wasn't scared? And I said, I think I would have my notice in and find something that I want to do. I did do that, and it was such a big decision. Like it's hard because once you get into a situation that you're kind of comfortable in and that you enjoy and it works for you, to step away from that and basically be like, right, I'm going to step away from security to explore something is really scary because I've got bills, man. I don't know. I mean, as a freelancer, like I think I was just saying to Emma earlier, from after August, I've got my diary is free. So if anybody needs anything, just let me know. But I live. That's kind of how it has been freelancers. I'm sure a lot of you will be able to relate to. But yeah, I just think, you know what, I can do it. It's fine. It will be fine. So yeah, I'd say that's probably a big, really difficult decision, but I'm quite proud that I plucked up the courage to send that email and be like, wait for the response. It's scary, but you should basically, the moral of the story is I think you should just, if you really do want to do something, I think you should just do it. It'll be fine. You'll work it out.
I think for me, I think with podcasting and with radio as well, you never actually know if anyone's actually listening to you. The one time where I actually got, it felt like as a team, we all collaborated on something and really helped listeners. So I was actually covering the breakfast show on Key 103, as in producing, the morning after the bomb at the arena. And it's the first time I remember waking up in the night, and obviously seeing the news, and I just couldn't get back to sleep, obviously, as everyone who saw it did. And going into the station early, and the guys that have been doing the evening show, they must have finished their show about 5 hours earlier, were still there and still doing reports. And the people that should have been on air were going off and doing other things to help support them during it. And then we started the show, and obviously at this point it was a local show, and none of us really knew what to do or how to get through it. We sort of were hearing rumours about everything that had happened and stuff like that. And it's the one time where we've actually had people phoning the station and genuinely looking for some comfort in what we were doing. And it was a really tricky situation, but it was actually coming out of it. It was a long day. It was a long, tiring and stressful day. But it was actually the one day where I look back and think that's the day that I think that it made most impact on my radio career in terms of like the effect that it went on and had on people. And it actually felt like you were serving a purpose rather than, because let's be honest, this isn't really a real job, is it? Whereas that day, it did actually feel like we were helping people. So that's probably the thing that I'm most proud of, I'd say.
I mean, you should be. So, oh, sorry. I've angered the sound man. I'm going to hold it here. Okay, so I'm conscious of time. So one more question, which is the top reason why people should apply for 30 under 30. Again, I'm going to go first so you don't steal my reason, which is the people you meet. So your cohort will be 30, there we go, it's in the name, 30 people, and I've worked with loads of them again. Radio and audio, podcasts, all of that is actually very small. I've worked with Xanthi, I've worked with Callum 10 years ago. In this room, I've worked with a lot of people. I've been stuck in a lift with Helen before. Like, it's a small world, and sometimes that next job, that next idea can come from someone you've met. You might have met them once for 5 minutes. You might have met them at 30 under 30, at a launch event like this. It is worth holding on to those contacts, even if it's just an Instagram follow, a LinkedIn connection. One day, they might be looking for someone. I remember, oh, yeah, Xanthi writes, actually. I need a writer who knows radio. And you know that person. So for the people you will meet and speak to, that's why you should apply. I applied 3 times, and I got on the 3rd time. So if you don't get in the first time, try again, as long as you're under 30.
Do you know what? When I found out I got it, I was so happy. I called my boss, Dave Masterman, at the time, who I love very much. He's amazing. And I was like crying on the phone to him, and I was just so happy because I just never thought I would get anything like that, because I don't know, I just didn't, and it just gave me a lot of confidence and that recognition. We're quite simple beings, you know. We just like to be acknowledged sometimes, and it's just nice. It's just really lovely, and I would totally agree with you in that radio's a very small world, so be nice to everybody, because you will definitely cross paths again. And yeah, the connections, I mean, there's a lot of familiar faces in here, and I think you build that through going to stuff like this and being involved. So yeah, it's definitely worth doing. And also, if you don't get it, obviously keep trying. But it's also not the end of the world. Like, you can't feel like an award defines you whether you're a good producer or not. It doesn't. But they are lovely. So it's just not beating yourself up if you don't get it the first time round.
I think for me, it felt like a bit of a seal of approval in a way. So I think it's helpful. Kind of doing what you do, you don't really get that. Again, like I touched on earlier, you don't actually know whether what you're doing is having an impact or how it translates. So I think that for me is having that seal of approval. And in terms of the benefits, I mean, it's helpful when we are chatting to clients, whether businesses looking to start a podcast or you go into broadcasters or anything like that. Just to sort of give you that certificate of, it's like getting a good TripAdvisor review, isn't it? So, that's the biggest benefit that I'd say.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely agree with all of your amazing points. Let me think of something else. I think for me, I agree. You both of you said that radio is a small world and you've met a lot of people on the list. I actually didn't know anyone in radio, really, because at the point that, first of all, I didn't think I should apply, my boss was like, you should go for this. And I was like, are you joking? I haven't made anything that anyone has listened to. There's no point. So thanks to him for pushing me to do it. But Yeah, I'd at that point only been making these pretty small independent podcasts, and I just didn't think anything was big enough to apply, and I didn't know really anyone in the industry. But since being on the list, I feel like, you've kind of said this, but it's made me think that the kind of content I'm making, even though it's not the biggest in the world, is valuable, and I should keep making that kind of thing. Like, we make a lot of podcasts for other charities, and it's made me I love making that kind of content, and it makes me want to keep doing it because I feel like it's valued by the people that listen to the applications. So definitely worth applying.
We're about to open the floor for questions, but first we've got a special guest. Ooh, oh, great reaction. Please welcome Jimmy, who is the chair of judges for 30 Under 30. Come on, woo!
Emma Louise, I have to say, when you said special guest, I was looking over my shoulder there. You're very kind. By the way, brilliant panel. And guys, congratulations. So inspiring. I think I was in the first 30 Under 30. I've got to be honest, I'm quite a long way from being eligible now, so it's sort of quite humbling. But really excited about your stories, really excited about some of the stories in this room, and hopefully celebrating sort of the next cohort. I don't know, it's probably helpful, isn't it, to share a few tips on what we're looking for as judges. I'm just going to move over this way for the camera. I'm in audio, I don't understand the visual side. Do you know what? Callum said something there about radio not being a proper job, and that sort of speaks to me as well. I definitely didn't think, I'd be able to get into radio. I didn't think it was for me, and I thought, the opportunities would be sort of beyond me. And I guess in the 30 Under 30, what we're really looking for is for you to sell yourself a little bit. It's not being about on the biggest show. I don't care if you've worked at Radio 1 or not, when I'm sort of judging your application or looking at it, or if you've been involved in working with some big name presenter I've heard of. What I sort of guess I want to understand is, what's your story? Tell me where you've come from. We want to be really throwing the doors wide open and being really inclusive with the 30 Under 30. And I know, all of the judges, real world, it's like really important to us to be as inclusive as we can be. So tell us, where have you come from? Tell us about maybe some of the barriers that you've faced in your career. Tell us your story. What is it that you've done to apply yourself and to create opportunities for yourself? And I guess, one of the reasons I didn't think I could be in radio or audio when I was sort of at an earlier stage in my career is because I look at some of the creativity and I hear some of the creative sort of stories of people in this room, and I think, gosh, that bar is set so high. And actually, I work on the business side. I work at News UK, and I've sort of been involved in launching stations like Times Radio and sort of creating podcasts with TalkSport and different brands. And I work on the business side, and I guess if I'm looking at a business proposal, it's like, okay, what's the data? What's the audience data? Who are you trying to reach? And with your application, where you'll stand out is, set out, I guess, what was the problem you were trying to solve? We wanted to reach this audience. We had this program that was kind of going in this way, and we took it in this way. Or, we just weren't innovative enough at this network, and we weren't reaching out through new channels to unlock new revenues or something like that. And I guess give us some data, give us some evidence. We were here, we went to here, and give us your story. I know there was a team involved, but be proud about what you did. I did this, I suggested this, I challenged some kind of assumptions, and here was the outcome. So, I hope that's helpful.
We're going to open the floor to questions. You can also ask Jimmy questions. I know he's sitting down, but I'll happily bring the mic to him. Anyone got any questions about 30 Under 30, about any of us? If not, we can keep talking, but I feel like you probably have some questions. Oh, it's quiet. It's quiet. Yes?
I know this is a simple question, but what actually do you get out of being part of 30 Under 30?
Just in case anyone didn't hear, that was, what do you actually get out of being part of 30 Under 30? You definitely get to go to like a nice, you've won event. You get a ticket to the Arias. You get a badge. You get a certificate. You get to meet some great people.
You can put it in your bios as well. That's the main thing.
And,
Oh, no, I was just going to say that as someone who gets sent a lot of CVs and job applications, if I see 30 Under 30, I'm like, this is a good person. They've been through a big process. And, so from the other side, from the hiring side, it is a really impressive badge of honour. You, 30 under 30, are the brightest and best young people in our industry. So, you know, get in while you can would be my tip.
There you go. Any other questions? Yeah.
Just sort of on the freelancing front, what would you say like your biggest tip for starting out in the freelancing world?
I've got one, but maybe I'll pass it. Oh, do you want something? Make sure people know you exist. If there's something you really want to do and something you really want to work on, be ready for that and make sure people know you exist. So make sure you've emailed them, you've contacted them. They might not reply straight away, but if they need someone and they don't know you, it won't be you. But if you've emailed them, if you've connected with them on LinkedIn, if you sent them an email, they've got your CV, it could be you.
Freelancing. The only, you know, earlier I said that, I ain't got it working after August. That's true. But the only reason, the only reason that I'm not that worried about it, I mean, sort of it did keep me up the other night, to be fair, because in fact it dawned on me, I was like, oh dear, what we're going to do? It'll be fine, it will be fine. But the only reason I can have faith in that and literally not worry about paying my bills is because I know that it will be all right, because I've got connections and I know that I can use them when I need them. So you have to feel confident that you have enough connections to do that, which is really hard, like especially when you're starting out. But I also think as well, you feel really intimidated when you first start, because it's like, I ain't got no experience, you know. But I would say this, being a producer, at all the different roles I've done, and speaking to like colleagues and employers, I wasn't, you know, when I first started, I'm not even saying I'm good now, but I was really bad. Like, I did sport in West Yorkshire. I don't know anything about this. I was driving the desk. It was awful. I was saving all the files wrong because I didn't understand rugby. It was terrible. It was terrible. But the reason I think it worked out was because even though they're like, God, she's so bad at this, but they knew I was trying really hard, and I'd like to think that I don't actually ever think I've ever been good at anything, to be totally honest with you. No, but I don't know that. No, but it's not that though. I just think I just work hard, and I think in most situations, if people can see that you are really trying, you're a greater asset than someone who's experienced. Because I've worked with some people that are way more experienced than me. It doesn't mean that they get on well with other people and that they, you know, you want a good team member. And I always would choose someone who is kind and works hard than someone who's got the skills. Like, you need those also. But I do think, for me, having that attitude that comes across is way more valuable to an employer.
Question at the back.
What would be your tips for applying for 30 and working with
That was what would be your tips for applying to 30 under 30. I might look at you for that, Jimmy. I know you're looking away, but...
Well, I'll give a quick answer, but maybe these guys can sort of chip in as well. Because for me, I think I said it before. I really want to hear your personal story and what made it unique. But I'm a business guy, so I love it if you've got some stats for me, or if you can kind of tell me what the impact was and really sort of quantify it. But it's like, as I say, it's relative impact. You don't have to be on the biggest network or working with the biggest presenters. It's just understanding. We were here and we went to here, and hearing your personal voice as well and your personal story.
I was going to say, I think including examples that demonstrate different things. So, like, maybe you worked on something that had a real impact on listeners for this reason, then you worked on something else that was even smaller. Like, I think I included something about how I had done some facilitating of workshops for other people in the industry and, like, passed on any skills I'd learned. And, like, that's a completely different thing. But I think including a variety of examples that demonstrate different skills or different types of impact you've had, I think that's what I would say.
For me, I think maybe having a think about the journey that you've been on during your career as well. So, like, really seeing that progression through, started off at the bottom here, nearly started rapping then, but then just see that you've sort of made that journey through and you've sort of made that impact wherever you've been to be able to progress. That could be absolute nonsense, I don't know, but I think that's what I would focus on, really.
Probably space for one or two more. Yeah?
What do you think are things to avoid on your application?
That was what are things to avoid on your application. I've got a quick one, which is underselling yourself. I think it can be difficult to show off, but actually here's the moment where you say what you're proud of, what you've done, why it was important, what impact it had. And I think it's different. That feels weird to some people. Actually, are really good at it, but not everyone is. So don't be shy about being confident and saying why you're proud of something and why it was important, and go big on that, because that is actually what makes you stand out, and that's what you should be proud of. Someone said earlier, I think it was Aradna, that actually 30 under 30 isn't important because of the name. It's important because the people on it have all done great things. So let the judges know what the thing is and go into detail and explain it well. I think there was one more. Yeah?
Obviously, like, getting into radio is pretty difficult, I suppose, like, similar to any industry, but how do you keep, like, pushing and, like, trying your best in radio, but also, like, keeping that work-life balance? Like, obviously, to get on with this, you obviously get at it really hard, but how do you keep that, like, life balance at the same time, I guess?
Not sure.
Yeah.
I think it's hard. So just talking from experience, there was times where I was working in radio and I was listening to the station at the weekend. It was all pre-recorded at the weekend, and I'd be hearing the news go out at the wrong time, and I would drive from East Manchester over to Salford to fix it. And then it was only later that I thought, why the hell am I doing this? Like, no listener cares that news is going out at 10 to the hour. So I think once you put yourself into that mindset of, look, it is important stuff that you do, but actually, like, it's only really impacting yourself as well. And if it's not having that wider impact on anyone else, then I think that's my mindset changed when I sort of figured that out as well, and realised it is only a podcast, it is only radio at the end of the day. So yeah, we're not saving lives or anything. So as long as you just keep that in mind, you can quite easily separate with it. It is hard, admittedly. I mean, things do get busy, but I think that's the thing. Just have it in your mind. It's not the be all and end all.
There's always going to be, like, you're on a journey. So there'll be some times where it's like, and other times where it's a bit more even and balanced. I've done late night Friday and Saturday shows where I finished at 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday, but also was like, but I want to have a social life. But you just find balance where you can.
You know, I'd also say to that as well is, yeah, you've got to put boundaries in, because when you're a freelancer as well, it's really hard to be like, I want a day off, so I'm going to turn that shift down because they'll offer it to somebody else. But you do have to find the balance, because I can guarantee all of us have, like, burnt out pretty badly at some point because we find it really hard to say no. So set boundaries. It's hard, but you've got to do it. You honestly, like, your mental health and your health is, you've got to put that first. Yes, you want to be successful and all that, yeah, but you can't do that. You can't do your job properly if you're knackered. You actually just can't. I've done that. And also, I think it makes you a better producer or presenter, whatever it is, when you've got, like, a life outside of work and you don't just talk about radio all the time. Do you know how boring it is when we meet up, like, with some friends, and you're like, we need to stop, we can't see each other for a little bit because all we talk about is radio, and it does my head in. And like what you were saying, I couldn't listen to radio. Sometimes I'm like, I can't listen to radio like a normal person anymore. I'm just analysing everything. So yeah, you just have to set boundaries and you'll figure out how that works for you. It's going to be different for everyone, but definitely implement it where you can.
Okay, I think we'll call that a close. Please put your hands together for the panel.
Thank you so much. I just thought it was worth just sharing a few key dates and a few bits and bobs about 30 under 30. So firstly, you can apply it yourself, and I really encourage you to be bold. This is not the time to be modest. Shout about what you're doing. And also, it's open for people to nominate other people who are under 30. And I would really encourage you to have a look around you and see who is really standing out, making a difference, and nominate them. There's no difference regardless of whether you nominate yourself or whether you get somebody, or whether you nominate somebody else. So all are fine. So please do have a look. All of the criteria are listed on the website. You have to be under the age of 30 by the 31st of August this year. So all of this is on the website, and just drop us a line if anything is unclear. The deadline for entries is 15th of August, so you've got time. But my one piece of advice is do not leave it to the last minute. Don't do that to yourself. Just start it now and get it in early. I'd really urge you to do that. One thing that we've changed is that you can send in a written application. You have to do a written application, but the application questions where we ask you to tell us your career highlights and your story, you can either write them, or if that doesn't feel comfortable to you, you can make a little audio clip or make a video clip. We're not assessing it for production values, okay? We just want to hear your story. So you can just do it on your mobile phone, just do it as a voice note. I would say, remember to really sell yourself in it though. So you don't have to make it pristine and beautiful, but we do need to be able to hear you and hear what's fabulous about you. So that's something else that you can do. Any questions, just drop us a line. Please do read thoroughly all of the criteria. We've put a lot of attention into trying to help explain what are we looking for, how to fill in an application. So please do look at that. And that's it really. Please apply. Applications are open now. Go and have a look. Tell all your colleagues. Tell everyone to think about who's fabulous in audio and who should be sat up here and on the list. Oh yeah, the other thing was just what does it actually mean being 30 under 30? Well, you've heard it best here. It's your 30 under 30 2024 if you're selected this year. We, the Radio Academy, invite you to some of our big ticket item events. That includes the Radio Academy Festival, which is coming up in September. The ARIAs, we also invite you to be an ARIAs judge, which is an incredible experience. You're with some of the industry leaders talking about what is the best audio in the UK today. And you also get invitation to other events through the year. We're planning to put you together as a cohort so you can get to know each other as well and build your network. And of course, it's a huge accolade to be able to put on your CV, put it on your socials, put it on your email signature. We'll send you everything you need. And we do a big launch day. So that's what 30 under 30 means. That's officially launched. Hurrah! Thank you so much to Emma Louise, Xanthi, Callum and Olivia. Thank you, Adam and Jimmy, sharing your stories. Thank you, Helen. And thank you so much to everyone for taking the evening out to come and have fun with us tonight. Have a really good rest of the evening.